These TikTok edits look so good. I'm gonna make one too. So you go ahead and open After Effects, only to realize it's so confusing. Where do I even start? If only there was someone who could help me. Well, don't worry, because I will show you exactly how you can make this fan edit of your favorite character to finally go viral. Let's go. Once we open After Effects, the first thing we have to do is create our project. And for that, we're just gonna click on New Composition. It will bring up this extra window, and in here, the first important step is gonna be choosing the right composition size. The composition size will be responsible for how your edit looks and which size it has. And because in my case, I wanna go for this nice rectangle look, I'm gonna put 1080 by 1450. Don't worry, there's a bunch of different resolution sizes. For example, 1080 by 1080, 1080 by 1920, or like in my case, 1080 by 1450. Which one you choose is completely up to your personal preference. The next and very important setting is gonna be the frame rate, and we wanna make sure this is set to 60 because this will give us the smoothest outcome. Last but not least, the duration is gonna be dependent on how long you want your edit to be. In my case, I'm just gonna go for 35 seconds because that's roughly how long my audio is. Once you made all the settings, press onto OK, and the first thing you'll see is this black preview. To get rid of all the blacks, we're next gonna import our footage and song. For that, I just put them all into one folder on my desktop, and the reason why I have two different scene packs is because I wanna use two different characters for my edit. I also have my song ready, so I'm just gonna select all of these and then drag them into my project panel on the left side. After it's done loading for a while, you will see they all appear on the left side of my screen. If you don't have a scene pack or audio yet, I recommend you search on YouTube or TikTok. You can usually find pretty good ones on there. For now, we're only gonna use our song to actually mark our beat drops. And to do that, we're just gonna select it inside of our project panel, the song by itself, and then drag it onto our timeline like so. The reason why we wanna mark our beat drops is so that once our audio starts playing, we know exactly when to change our clips so that we can match them with our music. Otherwise, you will look offbeat like a goofy CapCut editor. To mark your beat drops, I recommend you get your headphones because we're gonna have to listen along as well. Once that's done, right click onto your song, go to Keyframe Assistant and click on Convert Audio to Keyframes. This will create a second red layer, and we can now press U while having this one selected, and it will bring up all of these different sliders. In our case, we want to select the both channel slider by just clicking on it, and then we're going to open the graph editor by clicking this button right here. We're looking at this weird curve, and what this tells us is that after 14 or 15 seconds, as you can see, our beat starts dropping, so this is where we want the first clip to start playing. To see the exact point a bit more precise, I'm going to zoom in on the bottom of my timeline like so, and now every spike you see on here is going to be a beat drop. Do note that depending on which audio you use, this might look a bit different. In my case, I have the first spike right here where it's shooting straight up, so I'm going to go to the right side of my screen and click this little button right here. As you can see, this will create a numbered marker, number 1, so we know that here our first beat drop is happening. My second beat drop is right before it starts dropping down again, so this last spike before it goes low. So I'm going to move my time indicator here, and then once again click the button on the right side of my screen to create the marker number 2. By using this graph instead of just guessing the beat drops, it's going to be way more accurate, and make sure you repeat this process for all the beat drops you want to use in your edit. Once that's done, your timeline should look something like this. As you can see, I have a total of 19 beat drops, and now I can close the graph editor right here and delete this top red layer because we're not going to need it any longer. Our next step is going to be adding our footage to the edit, so we're not just looking at a black screen. To do that, I'm going to go back to my project panel on the left side of the screen and then select the scene pack I want to start with. If you only have one character, you're going to select one scene pack, but like I said, I want to use two, so I'm going to use the one I want to start with, which is from Joe Goldberg, and by just dragging this similar to our song earlier on my timeline, it will appear in our preview. The reason we're looking at a woman right now is because our timeline is only 35 seconds long. My scene pack, on the other hand, has a duration of over 1 hour, so obviously the two don't fit. To still find the exact scene we want to use for our intro, I'm going to double click onto this footage layer we just imported, and as you can see, it will give us a nice full preview of the entire scene pack, including a second mini timeline right underneath it. So you can see our main timeline at the bottom, and then we also have this mini timeline. If you look at the timestamps, you can see it covers my entire scene pack, and all we got to do now is use this mini time indicator on the new timeline to send her straight back to the kitchen and find the scene that we actually want to use for our edit. So just scatter throughout your scene pack until you find the scene that you want to use. In my case, it's this one right here. Once you found your scene, we're going to go to this bracket and just click it once, which will, as you can see, cut our scene pack to fit with our main timeline. So when we go back to our composition, you can see the clip starts exactly at the point that we selected. I only want my intro to be visible until the first beat drop because that's when our clips are going to start rolling in. So I'm going to move my time indicator to this first beat drop marker and then cut my intro layer by pressing Ctrl, Shift and D. Delete everything that comes past this point, and now we're going to redo the same process for all of our clips. Like I said, in my case, I want to use two separate characters, so I'm going to select the second scene pack and then drag it onto my timeline right where it's supposed to start at the first beat drop. One thing we want to make sure of is that our clips obviously fit with our resolution size. And because we put the height of our composition to 1450, most of the clips you're using aren't going to fit. As you can see, the borders of our clip are a bit too small, and if I go ahead a few frames, you can also see they will create these black bars. And to fix that, all we got to do is have the layer selected, press S on our keyboard, and then just increase the scaling until it completely covers us the black bars in top and bottom. The procedure to finding your clips is going to be the same that we just did for our intro. We're just going to double click onto this layer, and then we're going to use our mini timeline with the small time indicator to just move ahead throughout our scene pack until we find the scene that we want to use for our edit, which in my case is going to be this. And once I found it, I'm going to click onto this bracket, which will cut it to the place that I wanted to start. This clip is only going to be playing for one beat drop, so we're going to go ahead to the second time marker right here, cut the layer by pressing Ctrl Shift and D, and now double click onto the top layer and just repeat this process until you found all of the clips you want to use in your edit. Once that's done, our timeline should already look way more packed, just like me. And the next and actually very important step is going to be making sure that all the clips are in the center. As you can see, when I go to my first clip, for example, half of his shoulder is cut off, and that does not look good. So we're going to select the clip, press P on our keyboard, and then just increase or decrease the value on the left side until our character is fully in the center of the screen. Like before, make sure you repeat this process for all of your clips, including the ones in your intro. Once all of our clips are nice and centered, the last few steps that we have to do before we can finally start adding our first effects are first of all going to be selecting all of our clips. So just click onto the bottom one, hold your shift key, and then click the top one, which will select all of them at once. And then only for the ones in your editing part, make sure you click this speaker symbol, which will mute them. And then when you go to the right side, make sure you tick this checkbox, which will enable motion blur, and click the one left to it twice, so you also enable frame blending. This will make your edit smoother. And then we're going to select each clip individually, right click, go to pre-compose, select the bottom option, and enable this checkmark. Then press onto OK. And like before, make sure all of your clips are pre-composed. Once you pre-compose all of your clips, we can start adding our first effect, which is going to be a nice velocity. And to do that, we're going to use the Twixtor effect. First of all, I'm going to zoom in a bit on my clips so it's easier for you to see. And then I'm going to go to effects and presets and search for Twixtor Pro. If you can't find this in your After Effects, make sure you join my Discord server. We're going to drag this Twixtor effect on top of our first clip, and it will automatically open up the effect controls. In here, we have to make some changes. First of all, we're going to disable the check mark next to in FPS is out FPS and change the input frame rate to 23.976 or whatever your scene pack has. Then we're going to go to image prep and change it from none to contrast / edge enhance. The frame interpolation we're going to put to motion weighted blend, and the warping we're going to put from inverse to inverse with smart blend. Once this is done, we have to make sure our time indicator is at the very start of our first clip right here. Then we're going to go to the speed percentage and set a keyframe for the value 300. Press U on your keyboard to double check the position of the keyframe. It's very important that it's at the start. And then we're going to go to the middle of our clip, which is approximately here, and set a second keyframe by just replacing this value from 300 down to 60. For the third and final keyframe, we're going to go to the end of the clip where the next one is already starting and set the value from 60 back up to 300, which will create our third keyframe. If you hover over your clip now, parts of it are going to be black. And to fix that, we're going to select all of the keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistant and click easy ease. Then open the graph editor and copy my exact graph. We're going to start on the top left, just drag this handle straight down, and then the bottom handle we're going to drag towards the left like this. Mirror the same settings for the other side, so start by dragging the bottom one to the right like that, and the top one we're going to drag straight down like so. Once your graph looks like this, we can close the graph editor, and we have to make sure this velocity is the same on all of our clips. But don't worry, you don't have to make this animation over and over again. What we can do instead is select all of our keyframes, then left click onto our effect name, which is Twixtor Pro, and press Ctrl and C on our keyboard to copy. Now we're going to move our time indicator to the beginning of the next clip, which in my case is the second, and press Ctrl and V to paste them. What's very important to keep in mind is that sometimes your clips might have a different length. If that's the case, you can press U, and as you see, the keyframes don't match at all, so they're way too long. What we will do here is select the keyframes, hold down our Alt key, and just stretch them until they fit with the end of our clip. Like I said, you have to repeat this process for all of your clips so that they have a nice unity and don't look like they've been made on goofy CapCut. Okay, velocity is done. We have our first effect, but the edit still looks pretty blunt. To make it look smoother, we're now gonna add zooms. And here you have two choices. You can either pick zoom ins, which are gonna zoom into your clip, or zoom outs, which are gonna zoom out of your clip. Which one you choose is up to you. In this case, I think zoom outs look a bit better, so I'm gonna go for zoom outs. Again, start by zooming into your clip so it's a bit easier to see. And the effect we wanna use here is called S_blur more curves, so go to effects and presets and search for S_blur more curves. Again, if you can't find it, join my Discord server, and then just drag this effect onto your first clip like we did with Twixtor. This one is gonna look a bit different. We're gonna set a keyframe for Z distance and put the value from 1 down to 0.7. As you can see, our clip is now way more zoomed in, but because I actually wanted to zoom in onto his face or zoom out from his face, I'm also gonna change the center Y value. So by decreasing this, you can see it will kind of move the clip up and more zoom out onto his face. In my case, I'm gonna put this to 350, but which value you put is gonna be heavily dependent on your clip and of course composition size. Again, we're gonna press U on our keyboard, and you can see we have one more keyframe underneath our Twixtor effect. And to create the animation, we're gonna go to the end and set the second keyframe for the Z distance at 1. This will just reset it, and now you can see we have this zoom out animation. But because we're not goofy CapCut editors, we're changing the graph so it looks smoother. Select all the keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistant and click on easy ease. Then open the graph editor editor, and the graph we want to use here is quite different. Start at the bottom and drag this handle about 50% of the way up with a slight tilt towards the middle. For the top one, we're going to reverse this, so we're going to drag it down 50% of the way, again with a slight tilt towards the middle. Now we can close the graph editor, and if you want to use a zoom in instead, you would just reverse these values. So instead of starting with 0.7, you would start with 1 and go to 0.7. And to keep our unity, we're going to again apply the zoom out effect to all of our clips. So select the keyframes, then left click onto the S_blur curves effect, press Ctrl and C to copy, go to the beginning of your next clip, and then just press Ctrl and V. Double check if the keyframes match up by pressing U, which in my case they do, and then repeat this process until all of your clips have a nice zoom. Now our editing part already looks pretty fire, but before we start adding all of the other transitions, let's focus on the intro first. And for that, again, I'm going to grab my headphones because I have to listen to what the characters are saying. In my case, the dialogue is very simple, just listen along.
What the fuck? A decoy?
That's basically all that's being said in my intro. And to add our text, we're going to go to the top and select the text tool. Then we're going to click onto the center of our screen and just type what our character is saying at the current moment, which in my case is going to be WTF. And I don't want to put too much text into one line because that will make it a bit messy. If you ever want to change your text settings, just select all of your text and then head to the right where the character panel is located. I recommend you use the Arial bold font, and your font size should be between 35 and 60 pixels. Use 60 if you want a really big text, and use 35 if you want a really small one. In my case, I want something in the middle, so I'm going to go for 50. And if you ever want to change the color, you can do that by clicking onto this white box right here and then selecting whatever color you want your text to be in. One thing that's rage baiting me is that the text is not exactly in the center, and to always make sure your text is in the center, we're going to open up the align panel and align our text horizontally once and then also vertically to put it exactly in the middle. Now I'm going to play ahead and listen along to when the character actually starts speaking these words.
What the fuck? A decoy?
So you can see he starts somewhere here, which is why I'm going to cut my text layer at this exact point by pressing Ctrl Shift and D, because I don't want any text before here. We can delete this previous part of the text, and my character also speaks a second line of text, so I'm going to listen along again and see when he starts saying it.
What the fuck? A decoy?
As you can hear, approximately at this point he's saying the second line of text, so I'm going to cut the text layer right here by pressing Ctrl Shift and D, and then just replace the text with what my character is saying next. I'm going to select it and then just replace it with a decoy question mark. Once our editing part starts right here, we obviously want the text to be gone, so I'm going to select the text again and press Ctrl Shift and D, and then delete everything that comes past here. Next step, because we don't want our text to just pop in from nowhere, is going to be adding an animation. So I'm going to go to effects and presets and search for slow fade on. This is a standard After Effects preset, and we're just going to drag this onto our text layer. If we press U on our keyboard, you can see we have two keyframes, and we're going to have to adjust them to the timing of our text. I zoomed in a bit, and the first keyframe is basically the start, and the second one the end of our animation. So we want to drag the second keyframe to where our character finished speaking, which in my case is going to be about here.
What the fuck? A decoy?
As you can see, this will give us a nice little fading up effect. And for the decoy text, I want to add something more special, which is going to be a nice 3D text. And the way I want this 3D text to appear is by overlapping my current text. So I'm going to extend this a bit towards the end right here. And then the decoy text is going to overlap with the what the fuck, which is going to look pretty cool. To create a 3D text, we're going to start off by creating a new solid layer. So head to the top, click on layer, new, and then select solid. Color doesn't matter, just press onto OK, and then cut it to the duration that you want it to be. I'm going to start a bit earlier and then end exactly as my beat drops right here. Delete the extra parts, and the effect we need for the 3D text is called element. Go to effects and presets and search for element. Again, if you can't find it, join my Discord server, and we're going to drag this on top of the solid layer we just created. Another thing we're going to need for this 3D text to actually make it look cool is a texture. So I'm going to create a second solid layer, again with the same settings, and in effects and presets, I'm going to search for S_texture folded. Drag it on the newly created solid layer, and for the settings, we're going to put the frequency from 4 up to 7, the octaves from 1 up to 10, the fold speed we're going to put down to 6, 7, and for the color, you can choose whatever you like. In my case, I think a dark red would look pretty cool, so I'm going to select a little bit of a darker red, like this. What's very important is that we pre-compose this layer by right-clicking, pre-compose, then select the bottom option, enable this check mark, and press onto OK. I will show you now why this is important, because we're going to disable the look of this texture and then also of our original decoy text. Very important, don't delete these layers, but keep them invisible. Then select the solid layer, which has the element effect on top, and open up the custom layer section. Go to custom texts and masks, and for the path layer 1, we're going to start by selecting our text, which is a decoy. Now for the custom texture maps, we're going to open that up as well, and for the layer 1, we're going to select the white solid that we just pre-composed, which as you can see is the first one right here. So I'm going to select the number 1, white solid, comp 1. Then we can close the custom layers again and click on scene setup. This will bring up a whole new interface, and this is from Element itself. All we got to do in here is click onto extrude, and it will bring our 3D text inside of this preview. As you can see, we already get a little 3D look, but it's still not what we want. To add some more depth, I'm going to select my extrusion model and put the bevel copies from 1 up to 2. Then I'm going to click on this arrow to open up the drop-down menu and select the bevel number 2. The extrude value I'm going to put from 1 up to 1.2, and the expand edges I'm going to put from 0 0 down to negative 0.4, which as you can see, if we zoom in now, we get this nice popping out effect. And now the reason why we created this texture is because we can select the bevel number 2, scroll down to textures, and for the diffuse, select the one that we just created instead of our After Effects, which as you can see, will look way cooler than just using a plain red color. Click onto OK, and then repeat the same step for the glossiness right here. The background text I don't want to be white, so I'm going to select the bevel number 1, which is responsible for the background. Open the presets, and instead of Pro Shaders, I'm going to click on Metal and select the Clean Metal Clean. Once you're satisfied with your text, press onto OK, and as you can see, it now appears inside of our After Effects. Similar to the what the fuck text, we don't want it to just pop in, so next we want to create an animation for our 3D text. For that, select the white solid layer and open up the Group 1 section. Then click on Particle Look, and first thing I want to create is a nice zooming in effect for our text. So I'm going to go to the very beginning of my text layer and set a keyframe for the particle size. Put it from 10 down to 0. Then I'm going to open multi-object and enable it. Inside of here, I'm going to set 2 keyframes, one for the rotation random, and I'm going to reset this from 0 down to negative 50. And the second keyframe I'm going to set for the displace. Put this from 0 down to negative 0.2. And if we press U on our keyboard, you can see we have all of these 3 keyframes appear on our solid layer. Move your time indicator to the end of the solid layer with the element effect on it, and put the particle size from 0 up to 20, the random rotation from negative 50 to 15, and the displace from negative 0.2 to 0.1. Because this animation looks basic as shit, we're gonna close the Group 1 section and open up the animation engine. Enable it, and for the animation type, instead of directional, we're gonna select radial. Now again, move to the beginning of your solid layer and set a keyframe for the animation at 100%. Go to the end and put this from 100 down to 0%. Press U to bring up all of the keyframes, and we want to select all of them, right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, and then Easy Ease. We already have a pretty cool animation here, but to make it look even smoother, we're gonna copy the following graph, start with just the first keyframes, open the graph editor, click onto the top handle and just drag it all the way to the left. Keep the bottom one how it is, close the graph editor, select the second keyframes, again open the graph editor and copy the same graph that we just applied onto the first animation. Make sure you do this for all of your keyframes so they all have the same animation graph. Once that's done, our text still looks pretty blunt, so we're gonna add some effects. For that, go to Effects and Presets and search for Deep Glow. Drag it on top of the solid layer, very important, not the text layer, and put the exposure from 1 down to 0.4. Next, we're gonna search for Drop Shadow. Also drag it on top of the solid layer and put the opacity from 50 to 100%, the distance from 5 to 0, and the softness from 0 to 150. Then I'm going to select both of these effects, press Ctrl and C to copy, and also apply them onto our what the fuck text right here. In my opinion, this really upgraded our intro. I mean, just look for yourself.
What the fuck? A decoy.
Which brings us to our next step, because right now our edit still looks pretty boring and simple. To fix that, I'm gonna add my high quality color correction, which as you can see will make the entire edit look way better. And if you don't want to get my exact color correction I use to make my edits look the best as possible, make sure you check the first link in the description, because I'm still running a huge sale in my shop. Due to your guys' amazing feedback and support, you can still save an extra 10% on the already ongoing 70% summer sale by using the code SUMMER10. So if you want to go viral and become a better editor, make sure you don't miss out. Check the first link in the description. Limited time offer. Once we edit our high quality color correction, I still want to make some tweaks, especially with our editing part. Right now, the transition between intro and editing part looks pretty boring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in onto this point where our first beat drop is happening, and I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. So go to layer, new, and then select adjustment layer. I'm going to cut this exactly 20 frames before, and then also 20 frames after our first beat drop is happening right here, and delete all of the ends that we don't need. On top of this adjustment layer, I'm going to apply the S_shake effect. So just drag it on top, and then set a keyframe for the amplitude right as the beat drops. Put the value from 1 down to 0.3, then go to the start of the adjustment layer and put it down to 0. Press U on your keyboard, then also go to the end of the adjustment layer and put it down to 0 as well. Enable the checkmark that says motion blur, select all of the keyframes, and then easy ease them. Now open the graph editor, and the graph we want to use here, we're going to start in the bottom right and just drag this handle towards the middle like so. And then the same thing on the other side, we're just going to drag this towards the middle about this much. To fix these black bars I'm getting right now, I'm just going to select all of my text layers, including the white solid layer for the element effect, and put them all into one pre-composition. There is a ton of different transitions, just like this one, which you can use for your edit, but showing them all in this tutorial will take a bit long, which is why I made an extra video which you can watch right here if you want to learn more advanced transitions. Once you edit all your transitions, there's only 2 more steps before we can finally export our edit. First thing I want to do, once my editing part finishes playing, I want it to play one more time so that there's a loop. And to do that, I'm just going to select all of my clips at once, right click, go to pre-compose, select the bottom option, enable this check mark, and press onto OK. Now I can duplicate this layer by pressing Ctrl and D, Then I'm gonna make sure I'm at the end of my first editing part and then drag the second one we just duplicated until it fits with the end of it and starts playing one more time. The second thing I'm gonna do is add my 3D outro so no goofy CapCut editor can steal my edit. Now just go to the top, click on composition and then select add to render queue. In here, make sure you click onto the output module and change the format from H.264 to QuickTime. Press on OK. If you want, you can also give your edit a nice name. In my case, I'm just gonna say Dexter edit. Click on save and then click on render. Depending on how fast your PC works, this might take a while. If you're still confused and want to learn editing on a deeper level, make sure you check the second link in the description to my school community, where you get the project file of this and all my other edits, including my outro, profile picture, and all you need. You also get over 200 hours of unfiltered After Effects lessons with 3 weekly meetings where you can ask me anything you want to know. Make sure you don't miss out on the current offer if you want to take editing more serious. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. If this video helped you, make sure you like and subscribe. It would really make my day. Watch this video next if you also want to create a nice 3D outro. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time.